Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Gorsuch and Roberts side with left-leaning Supreme Court majority in immigration case. Let's take a look at this reporting today by Fox News. The article, ladies and gentlemen, is titled Gorsuch, Roberts side with left-leaning Supreme Court justices in ruling on immigration. And ladies and gentlemen, that article reads, Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch and Chief Justice John Roberts on Tuesday sided with left-leaning justices in an immigration appeals case, a narrow ruling that could portend the court's future of thinking amid a flurry of legal cases centered on immigration. The 5-4 in Montalvo Velasquez versus Bondi centered on the government's interpretation of a 60-day, quote, voluntary departure, unquote, deadline, which authorities can use to allow certain immigrants deemed to be, quote, good moral character, unquote, to depart the U.S. on their own terms within that time frame. The Supreme Court ruled, with the backing of Roberts and Gorsuch, that any voluntary departure deadlines for immigrants under the 60-day departure frame that fall on a weekend or on a legal holiday in the U.S. should be extended to the next business day. Writing for the majority, Gorsuch noted that this interpretation of the 60-day period aligns with long-standing administrative practices, including an immigration law. Quote, Congress adopts a new law against the backdrop of a long-standing administrative construction, unquote. The court generally presumes the new provision works in harmony with what came before, unquote, Gorsuch said. Quote, since at least the 1950s, immigration regulations have provided that when calculating deadlines, the term day carries its specialized meaning by excluding Sundays and legal holidays, and later Saturdays. If a deadline would otherwise fall on one of those days, unquote, Gorsuch added, noting that the 1996 Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigration Responsibility Act passed by Congress uses the same reading. Gorsuch was joined in the majority decision by Roberts and Justices Sotomayor and Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson. The court's ruling overturns the decision of the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals and the Board of Immigration Appeals, which had voted to reject that interpretation in the case of Monsalvo Velasquez, a 32-year-old Colorado resident targeted for removal in 2019. And while the case in question centers largely on the technicalities of certain immigration proceedings, the slim majority ruling could offer early signs of the court's thinking as justices gear up for a flurry of high-profile immigration cases, including cases centered on due process protections for immigrants and on nationwide injunctions that block Trump's birthright citizenship ban from taking force. Justices Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Brett Kavanaugh, and Coney Barrett dissented, noting that, in their view, the court lacked jurisdiction to weigh in on the matter. While Thomas said he would have remanded the case back to the lower court to consider other outstanding issues, and Barrett took issue with the nature of the appeal filed by Monsalvo. Alito said in a separate dissenting opinion that he viewed the court's interpretation as a whole as incorrect. In his view, the 60-day period imposed by the government is straightforward and should include weekends. Quote, "There will always be a sympathetic pro-se alien who is a day or two late," unquote, Alito said, adding that, quote, "unless the court is willing to extend the statutory deadline indefinitely, it would presumably be forced to say in such cases that a day too late is just too bad," unquote. Quote, "For this reason, sympathy for a petitioner cannot justify the court's decision," unquote, he said. The narrow ruling comes just weeks before May 15, when justices are slated to hear oral arguments in a case challenging President Donald Trump's attempt to end birthright citizenship in the U.S. The case is considered one of the most highly anticipated ones to be reviewed by the High Court since Trump took office. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you did enjoy today's legal breaking reporting, please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Firstly, and secondly, if you did enjoy this video and want to stay up to date on all the things legal breaking on the side of politics, please, secondly, hit the bell icon that is right next to the subscribe button down below on the right hand side, and hit the all notifications options. Thirdly, if you guys want to also stay up to date on all the things legal breaking on the side of politics, please follow me on my social medias that'll be linked down below. I am on Instagram, Snapchat, Threads, as well as TikTok. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, fourthly, ladies and gentlemen, please help me reach and achieve the goal of 160 plus subscribers. The reason why I'm saying 160 plus subscribers is because after we reach and achieve the goal of 160 subscribers, we have more subscribers to reach and achieve right after we reach and achieve the goal of 160 plus subscribers. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, please stay positive, please stay safe, and until my next legal breaking reporting, please stay safe, please stay positive, and know that justice will prevail, despite Donald Trump and his illegal regime's unconstitutional, illegal executive orders and actions and behaviors